Hello, everyone. Welcome to Paranormal Round Table's weekly live streams Tuesday night, and it's almost 8 o'clock, or it is 8 o'clock. We always announce 7:30, but we usually get started around this time. That's around the time everybody starts getting in. Let me get comfortable here. Let some people join the chat. Oh boy. Everybody like part 2 of the Canid was it what was it called? Canid Creatures of the Ute Nation? That's part 2. A lot's happened this week. A lot of stuff going on. Hope I can remember to cover everything. Let's get started with the email address, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. That's my email address. Or you can friend request me and private message me your stories. However you want to do it. It's up to you. Other thing I was going to talk about, prtpodcast.com is the website. You can go and check out our website. We have artwork and we have all kinds of stuff. We have back episodes. We are on several different platforms. YouTube is one of them. This thing is really kind of in my way here. YouTube is just one of our platforms, but you can only get the live stream on YouTube. It's a YouTube exclusive. So, in other words, we only do it on YouTube. It just sounds cooler to say it's a YouTube exclusive. Got a very expensive paperweight here. I'll show you what that is in a minute. And I forgot to bring the vampire steak to show everybody. But I actually have silver bullets and vampire steak, believe it or not. That's a real thing. Got a link from a guy that actually, I think it was Kevin Moreland, sent it to me for silver bullets, which I already have. I don't know how practical they are, but apparently that's a thing. People order those. I talked to a guy who makes them every now and then, and he said it's not uncommon for someone to come in there once in a blue moon, no pun intended, once in a full moon, and order these things. I don't know if anybody noticed, but in one of the Bigfoot groups, some guy posted a question about werewolves, and some idiot jumped on there and started hammering him, attacking him. So I asked him a very simple question. I was like, "You've never heard of Dogman?" And he's like, "Man, get down the hallway with that bull." Yeah, I don't know if that's how he talks, but I'm assuming from his illiterate and ignorant retort that's probably how he talks. Very, 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 very negative person. So I basically said some things back, and I posted that in the PRT group. Now, if you want to keep up with all this juicy stuff that's going on, go to Paranormal Round Table group page on YouTube. This thing is like getting in the way here. Go to the Paranormal Round Table group in YouTube. I mean on Facebook. And we have Paranormal Encounters. We have Paranormal Lounge. Paranormal Lounge belongs to Nelly. Paranormal Encounters belongs to Tony. Y'all need to get in there and start harassing him because he doesn't do anything with it. But yeah, it's there. It has almost 2,000 people in it. I'm also Whisper to a Scream podcast. That's Ryan. Go and show him some love and join. I have a fan page created by Phil Stern. They have all kinds of funny memes and things they made about me. It's Chris Clough and Curtis Turner, no relation, but good friend. And they're always making funny little things about me and Barton Nunley and Mick Valente and everybody. And so let me get the Patreon read. Ryan, E. Marie 84, Super Hornet 1, Debbie Wolf, Extreme Reality Check, Histotech, James Estrada. These are handles, folks, not necessarily their. You have Tim Bernard, Ricardo Herrera, Barry, Titan, Chronological, Dead Man Walking, Guy, Don Wells, Melissa Panay. Melissa Panay, I know you went to the Bigfoot conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and you ran into some people who are actually wearing PRT shirts. One of them was Justin Decker, who claims his beard rocks harder than mine. That's fine. I will give you that, Justin. Your beard is it rocks. Derek Tribble, Andrea Krask, Patrick Nickerson, Shannon, Dick Richards, Joyce Brunette, Wendy Page Williams, Barbara Blendy, Martin Hertel, Terry Fusler, Chris Clough, Lou Elboyne Tippo, okay, Lou Elboyne Tippo, whatever, Curtis Turner, Philip Morn, Alexandra Murphy, Matthew Durgo, Chris Smith, and Ralph Ayuk.
Real quick, Billy called and asked if someone's going to take the key over at platform.
That's a question for our partner. I don't have one. So, dealing with work, as always. Oh. So, did everybody see the post? If you go to Paranormal Round Table group on Facebook, you can see the post of the action figure of me. I thought that Lyle was going to be the first one he was going to make, and then he was going to make Ken, and then mine, Barton and Nick Valente. But apparently, that is not what happened. He made mine first. I didn't ask him to do that, but thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. And it came out really cool. I can't show you on here, but you can go to Facebook and you can see the action figures. So the first one, the prototype was made, and we'll see how it goes. I was just to give you a little, deal here to just explain what's going on. I am thinking about starting a line of action figures now. I've been in the talks with some different people. Lyle Blackburn, one of them. Me and Lyle had a 2-hour conversation the other night, and he may be a partner, and we may do this. If anybody else is interested in getting involved, I guess we can do a Kickstarter. But everybody that I've talked to is talking about how it's such a nightmare to deal with. It's really hard to mess with. But we'll see. But if anybody out there wants to invest, because the molds cost money, and we're going to create, and it's not just going to be figures of us people. It's going to be, we're going to let Charlie do some of the work, and then we're going to try to make molds, and create a line of cryptid action figures, starting with about 4 I can think of. Dogman and different types of Dogman, and then of course Bigfoot, or Big Feet, as the idiot in that group said. Man, this group's about big feet. Yeah. So I don't care what this is about. I'm swatting at something here. Big feet, little feet, doesn't matter. It's all the same to me. Hairy wild people, apes, whatever, running around out in the woods, wreaking havoc. Somebody's got to stop them. So, Couple things I wanted to go over real quick. It's pretty funny actually what Charlie wrote. Uh, I'll read that in a minute. So if anybody has any questions, ask away. Let's see what people are saying here. Because I'm looking at like this action figure thing is not like a money-making venture. I want to do it. If I could just get my money back out of it, break even, that would be cool. See, Mothman figure with flapping wing. Yeah, thank you. That's one I was thinking about, Chad. So I was thinking about Mothman. I was thinking about Dogman. Maybe a Lizard Man. Somebody said Dr. Meldrum pull string talking action figure. I don't know how well that would sell. The thing is, if you create them the way that Charlie did mine, and you go and look at that, it's like a WWE action figure, and it's almost like it's like a pro wrestler looking type guy. And if you go and you look at that, and then we're gonna make Lyle like the rockabilly cowboy dude, and then you got Ken, he's like the Indiana Jones looking guy. Barton, he's out there, trying to slay the beast of the LBL, and you got Nick Valente out there like a paramilitary paratrooper guy, So people don't even have to know who these people are to be interested in buying them, because they're going to look really cool. But the monsters are going to be what does it. Okay, you're going to have Dogman, you're going to have Bigfoot, and you're going to have Mothman, you're going to have Jersey Devil. The fourth one I wasn't so sure about. I wanted to make 8 molds to see how it started off, and that costs money. So we're going to see how well we do with donations and with people willing to contribute. If anybody wants to contribute, says, what about the Dogman with the wings? That's a gargoyle, as far as I'm concerned. Mothman definitely would probably be those 3, and maybe a lizard. I was thinking the Lizard Man or the Rake, or the Crawler, whatever you want to call it. We'll see how it comes out, and we could use some of the same molds to make different ones. Somebody said He-Man. Don't tell me about He-Man. Good gosh, dude. What in the heck was Netflix thinking? You kill off the main character in the first episode and then make it about Tila? Awful. I was so disheartened. Just crushed my childhood dreams right there. Nothing's good anymore. They don't make good anything. They make from the old days, from when we were kids. They muck it up. They screw it up. Transformers, they're still pretty good movies, but there was such a large canon, I guess you should say. What is the word, Anthony? They had so many Transformers to choose from. And that thing's coming off the wall, whatever that is. They had such a large, we talked about this over and over again, how they had such a large plethora of different Autobots and Decepticons to choose from, and then they go and they make new ones. They make like these 2 Autobot, I don't know what they were on that. The second movie was just, it was the hatchlings and ghetto bots. I don't know. It was dumb. It was just so stupid. I don't get it. It was like they completely just went off the rails. There were some really good parts to that one, but then there was just a lot of other stuff that they just. But and then I think the last episode, and then of course Bumblebee being this bad dude going around fighting, doing all that. He was never that in any of the other stuff. He was always a small little scout dude. He was not a big. Tough guy, whatever. Chris Clough says Beast Wars. You must have grown up in that era, Chris. Because I wasn't really big on Beast Wars. I watched it and I was just kind of like, eh. I think because the graphics weren't caught up yet. It was 1996. So, Chris Club, by the way, thank you so much for that package. I got it, and thank you for all the candy and the treats and stuff. If anybody sees the Anubai, I can't say the rest of it. Is it Anubis 2038? Y'all can read his comment. I'm not going to read it, but it's pretty funny. Doug Jones says, have Joe Rogan on as a guest. He lives in Austin now and wants to be a believer. Yeah, he's actually my neighbor. I talk to him pretty much like every day. So I'm just kidding, folks. I do not. I don't know Joe Rogan. Just messing with you. Everybody was like, really? You know Joe Rogan? No, I don't. And if I did, I probably wouldn't have time. I've got 1 million people that I need to put on the show. I did do a show with Nick Valente, Gary Spikes, and Jeremiah Fountain, and I think they're supposed to have it out tomorrow. I have no idea. It was weird. Gary and Jeremiah both went to the hospital at the same time, and so Amy says, "Hey Josh Wolf, I hope that you and Nelly are doing good and feeling great." Nelly has been having some problems. Just pain, constant pain. Just please pray for her, please. Somebody says Joe Rogan thinks we're idiots. Well, that's good. He can think what he wants. It's his opinion. Maybe we could get him on and we could talk about Dogman, or I could go to him and talk about Dogman. It's up to you. Christine Antico, I loved you on that show. I love your stories. On that show you're referring to, that I used to do episodes on. Are you a new listener to my show? Because I have a lot of material. I only have links to the shows that I did on that channel, on that particular channel. So anything else, you're not gonna be able to find it. Anything from that show when it comes to me. Suzanne Neil Gardis, what's a idiot? I guess we are idiots. I don't know. Corey Cole, that is very odd. Would not want to have that in my house. Story, please. Not yet. Joe Rogan thinks Bigfoot sightings are beer. Oh, send him my way. Let's talk. We'll have talk. Joe Rogan, if you're out there, let's talk. He's also into MMA like I am, and I was in the gym today, helping coach my nephews. Shout out to Deuce King, who's doing the boxing coaching, the stand-up, former MMA fighter. Chief, who does the ground game. He's the Arcanum combat guy. We're ready to take this to the next level because we got a lot of people who want to train. A lot of people. And I got some videos of me out there doing some work. I'm not a big, slow, sloppy guy. So if you're interested in training and you're in the Austin area, let me know, because that's like another job I do. Between that and doing this and then my security job, I don't have a lot of time. So, that's why I don't go on other people's shows very often. The night that Jeremiah Fountain came to me and said, hey, you want to do a show? I was kind of hesitant, but Jeremiah's a good guy, helped grow his group. And so I was like, you know what? That's fine. I'll do it. Speaking of groups, I do have a couple other groups that I'm trying to grow. We're trying to get the Cryptid Studies Institute group to 1,000. We're about 40-something members short. So if you could go show them some love, look it up on Facebook, the Cryptid Studies Institute. That's Johnny and Elijah's group. So this is what Charlie said. This is what Charlie put on the Paranormal Round Table when he posted this. Okay. He put, deep in the rural parts of central Texas lurks many a beast, dogman, Sasquatch, chupacabras, and other deadly creatures. But there's a light in the darkness, a Ronin bent on protecting this beautiful state from the horrors that be. The locals call him the Wolf. The first in the Paranormal and Plastic series, Josh Turner, a custom action figure made in the likeness of the host of Paranormal Round Table. He stands 6.5 inches tall and is fully articulated. And then it shows me basically fighting a werewolf. I don't know if you guys, it's hard to see. I don't know if you can see that. Do you see that? There it is creeping up on me. There's a shot of me by myself. I guess that's before the werewolf creeps up on me. I'm just chillaxing. Here's me getting confronted by the villain, the werewolf, Rougarou, whatever that is. Some sort of wolf-like creature. Susan Flett Young, thank you for that donation. I appreciate that. It says, good evening, Wolf, Nelly, and the entire PRT family. PRT rules. Thank you. See, it's even got the little shirt. See the little logo on there? I'm not wearing that shirt today, but, and then, pow! See it? There you go. There's me. I'm knocking the poop out of that dog, man, or whatever he is. And then I'm holding my fist like, yeah, that's what you get. Then I stand over his body triumphantly. Okay. That's Charlie's rendition of what he thinks would happen. My rendition is a little different. I'm not going to get into that. But let's just be happy with that one. Just be cool. So, and I'm going to read something to you guys. This is from Johnny Henderson. He posted this a few minutes ago, probably about 45 minutes ago. He is the head, him and his son, they do the Cryptid Studies Institute, and then his daughter, Gabby. But here's what he posted. He says, wow, we just found an old man lying on the ground, his head in someone's yard, his body on the sidewalk, and his feet in the street. He was burdened down so heavily with backpacks that he couldn't get up. Cars were just zooming past him. People were sitting on their porches ignoring him and just left him laying there on the hot pavement with bloody knees. We stooped and got him up and walked him home and carried his bags. He was so drunk, we had to hold him up, and yet no one helped him. What is wrong with the world? It's a very good question. My buddy, and I mean that, my friend, my really good friend, Barton Nunley, he says, Satan has control. That's what's wrong with it. Thank you guys for helping that fellow. Y'all are the best of us. And I want to say Joanne Hartnett, who's actually one of the winners of the contest recently. She's a longtime listener of PRT. She says, many blessings to you, Johnny, and your family and friends. Your heart is right where it should be. That's right. Thank you for saying that. Now, here's another one. Beth A. Wojcicki, I hope I said that correctly. She says here, I've had 2 instances in my life where I'd fallen and been injured, and people literally stepped over my body to go about their day, ignoring the crying woman on the ground. Thanks for being a decent human being and helping this guy. The fact that people do this kind of stuff sickens me to my core. It makes me think that where is the compassion? Where's the humanity? I'm not the nicest guy in the world, but if I see somebody laying there in the street, you know, and people are stepping over them, and you know, right now we have a lot of homeless people that are camping out and doing whatever here in Austin, and so there's a lot of like things that are going on involved with these people, I'm sure, alcohol and drug abuse, things like that. But someone's laying there in the street. Okay, I can tell you right now, I personally have stopped and checked on people, and a lot of people can vouch for that. Not patting myself on the back, because you're not a superhero for doing that. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Okay? People like Johnny Henderson do what they're supposed to do. They stop and they try to help someone who's laying there who could be seriously hurt. Okay. And everybody acts like it's a freaking game, or you're just too busy, because, you got to look at your phone and got to go to McDonald's and do whatever. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm busy. And then when something happens to you and no one reaches out to help you, you're like, what's wrong with the world? My world's so bad. The world's evil. Because nobody's helping me. If everybody sat back and went back to a time where you could have done something for someone, okay, and you didn't, then maybe you could figure out how karma works, and maybe you should have done something. Maybe that's why. And then bad things won't happen to you. Because every time something bad happens, people are always like looking for the reason. Oh, God, why'd you do this to me, God? Oh, it was the devil. Let's blame somebody, something. I'm going to be real honest, folks. The devil gets a lot of blame for stuff that he's not even doing because you're so rotten, you do it yourself. The devil's like over there like, I don't have to do this. Thanks for doing it for me, buddy. I'm going to go hang out in Costa Rica. I'm not saying that that's where the devil's at in Costa Rica. If you're Costa Rican, I'm not saying that the devil lives in your country. Or does he? I don't know. I'm just saying that the devil doesn't need to do anything because you're doing it for him. You're doing it for these devils. Okay? This is ridiculous. People, come on. We can do better than this. Elizabeth Carey Norwood, another listener of my show, and I appreciate this too. She says, I am so glad that God put you exactly where you need to be at the right time. And I think these people all listen to Cryptid Studies Institute because people from Cryptid Studies Institute are Christians who try to do what is right. Thank you for these comments. Now, Becky DeBoard, another good person. She's like, I couldn't be that person that sees someone in need and ignore them. Wow is all I can say. Bless you for showing kindness to that pitiful soul. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, that's all I'm asking. Like, where is the compassion? Where is the humanity? People treat people bad right out the gate. I'm going to tell you something, and then here's a story that happened to me on Friday. Went out on a date night with my wife, had a great time. We went to Smoky Creek Cajun Cafe. It's a really good restaurant, good place to go. A buddy of mine owns it. I had a business meeting there, and he showed up, and we talked. And one of my business partners that I do work with ran for office, ran for a constable. Got cheated, in my opinion, but it's whatever. Can't prove it. So we're strategizing, going to try and help him with his political campaign, either sheriff or constable, something, So we're talking, and after we had our dinner, and then we met with our friends, and then we went to go for a ride, and we drove out to the property to look at our property that we bought, and we can't wait to get started building. About a month out from that to get everything in place. We take our drive, and there I see on the side of the road an injured animal, and I go and I stop and I go to pick it up, and it's a badger and it bites me in my neck. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what happened. No, I'm just that's crazy. I stomped it. We got back in the car and took off. No, it wasn't a badger. There was nothing on the side of the road. I'm just kidding, folks. I'm joking with you. I'm kidding. No, we took our drive and we went to Spinners, which is a favorite spot of mine. And I thought, you know what? I'm hungry again. It had been maybe 5-6 hours since we'd eaten, and I didn't eat much. I ate a light dinner over at at my friend's restaurant. So I have to eat like smaller meals. You know what I mean? Like you're eating a little, less, so you can like look, So I'm doing that. So I said, you know what? I like a turkey leg. My friend at Spinners, and I can't say enough good stuff about his food. The Spinners, I ate there today actually. Even the burger, I ate it with no salt. No, it was just it's a real good meat. So I decided to go get a turkey leg. So I go up to the bouncer. I've never seen this guy before in my life. He's about 6'5", he's a big guy. He's a big dude. I don't know what his deal is, okay? I go to the door. I've never seen this man before in my life. You look at me, folks, okay? Take a look at me. I'm 46 years old, okay? I know I don't look 46. I hope I don't. I hope I'm, but I'm old enough to you look at me and you're going to go, okay, this guy probably doesn't need to be carded, right? Guy's like, ID. And I said, okay, well, are you serious? Because first of all, I was kind of like, are you serious? Didn't ask my wife for the ID, just me. And so I said, okay. So, and I'm looking up at the guy. He's taller than me. And I start looking for my identification. And I said, dude, is this necessary? I mean, can't you tell that I'm of age? I mean, this is really ridiculous, And he's like, I don't care what you think is ridiculous. Basically, just very rude. I mean, he was very, very, very rude. And I said, you don't have to be rude to me, sir. And he's like, just show me your ID. You're not coming in. The guy that owns that place has been a friend of mine for years. Well, he used to work for me. We used to work together. And you run a bar, a nightclub. Everybody's like, oh, I know the owner. And I'm like, so do I, it is what it is. You get into altercations because people think they know the owner and they're rude to you and they think they can treat you like crap because they know the owner. So I asked this guy, I said, dude, is it okay if I just go in and get, I know the owner, at that point I was being kind of stubborn too. Cause I'm like, I'm not even going to show this guy my ID because this is ridiculous. And then I said, and he goes, you're not coming in. And I said, the hell I'm not. Okay. And then he said, don't make me get physical with you, sir. That part right there made me laugh. I started laughing and I said, okay, that's not going to happen. You can try and it's not going to work out. Okay. You shouldn't say things like that. You shouldn't even go there. There's like a gnat or something flying around. It just flew in front of the camera. It's a cryptid. It's a baby Mothman. So anyways, this guy, he decides that he has to let me know that he may have to get physical with me. And so I started laughing at him. And my wife the whole time, she's just being sweet. And she's like, can't you just, I showed him my ID at that point. I said, look, here's my ID. Okay. It didn't matter at that point. He'd already seen it. He didn't care. So he just does this, like he's going to stand. He just stand in front of the door. So I'm like, so are you not going to let me in? Because I'll just walk around the patio and go in. So I start to do that, and he starts to follow me. And he doesn't even bother to card my wife. He just lets her in. And so I was like, why are you not carding her? Okay, why are you threatening to get physical with me? At that point, he'd already seen my ID too. I was like, here, this is ridiculous. And he got and I turned and I was like, dude, you better back off because I don't want to fight you, kid, but it's about to happen. And I saw my buddy walking up, the owner and the general manager, Nick, who's a friend of mine. And then I saw Frazier, who's one of my, he's Jamaican guy, works here, they're my brothers. And I said, hey, come here before this is about to go somewhere, So they all come running up and I said, dude, this guy's being totally disrespectful. He's cussed at me, which he did. Cause I said, I know Arash, that's the owner, whatever. He's like, I don't give a F, and I don't know who that is. And I was like, you work for him? You don't know who he is? So when they showed up, they got in between me and this individual. And at that point, then he starts to try to push the issue. And I'm like, oh, now you want to push like you want to fight. He was kind of following me. And when I turned and went back toward him, he backed off. But then when they got there, then he was back up there going woo, 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 and slapping his face and doing all this stuff. And so I was just like, dude, this guy, I was like, he's behind y'all, slapping his face, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So I got really angry. Okay. I mean, I was mad. I was ready to fight this guy. And I was trying to be a good boy and not fight, not do anything. And I said, let this guy come out here. Come on, boy. Nick, the general manager, I've known for over 20 years. We're friends. We talked And we agreed that they were going to talk to him, and they were going to. Our I said it was like his second night. He did not even know him. It was just Nick's guy. Turns out he's a 19-year-old kid. And he's not a bad kid. He came to me and he apologized. I immediately stuck my hand out. I said, I'm sorry too for whatever. But that was not the way to handle things. When I kind of laughed and said, are you serious? He just bucked right up to me and got right up on like he invaded my AO at that point. I was like, okay, bunch of people told him, hey, this isn't the kind of person you should be messing with. Besides, he's our friend. He's not the person you should do this with. Don't do it. And so I said, okay, I accept his apology. Then he started talking about, hey, I didn't know you train MMA guys. I'd like to learn how to fight, this and that. And I was like, you don't know how to fight already? He says, well, I'm big and I'm pretty quick. I'm like, okay. And you have no formal training and this is how you. The thing I told him was this: if I wasn't a nice guy, it would have been right hook, and it wasn't with my wife. It would have been bad. It could have been very bad, especially 10 years ago me, or even 5 years ago me. It's a different person, different animal. Not only that, but then people pull out guns and blow brains out like it's nothing. Okay, this happens on 6th Street now on a regular basis. The fighting and the shooting is always the fighting, and there was every now and then a shooting or a stabbing. I was stabbed. But I'm talking like, I said, dude, this is a different time. People are not nice. Somebody's going to pull out a gat and they're going to just bam, and it's over. Or they're just going to attack you. And then their friends are going to jump on you, and it's unreal. And I gave him a little talk, and I said, you seem like a nice kid. What's going on? He goes, well, I was having a bad night. I think he was arguing with somebody when I walked up. It was another big dude, was kind of, and I think he kind of just took it out on me. And I was like, of all the people to pick a fight with and pick, you see a big guy, and do I give off the vibe of just being a big teddy bear that I'm just going to take your crap? Or maybe because I was nice and cordial at first that he just assumed, hey, I can punk this dude out, or I can say he's with his wife or whatever. I can just do whatever. I assure you that's not the case. But all's well that ends well. But the bottom line is, what happened to people just being respectful and being nice and just, all this rigmarole? Why does this have to be? I just don't get it. I'm just floored by the way that people treat each other. It's just weird. I don't know. I can't wrap my mind around it. I think that our world is getting more and more evil. We're devolving as a species instead of moving forward and becoming better people. And I think that at some point it's all going to come to a head. And I'm sorry that's to tell you this, But anyway, I want to show you something, folks. If you can see that. Does anybody know what this is? There was a guy on YouTube that was giving these away. It was about half the size of this one. Or you could take a chocolate bar. And 10 people chose to take a chocolate bar over this. Can anybody tell me what this is? Can you see it? Do you know what this is? No? Somebody give me an answer here. And then I'll explain to you. Silver bar. There you go. There you go. And Anuba's you're on top of things today, buddy. You get the no prize. Somebody says blurry. Well, it's a bar of silver. That's a 20-ounce bar of silver. If you have the opportunity, you should start buying, if you haven't already, which I've been doing for about 15 years, buy silver and gold. As much silver and gold as you can possibly buy. Period. That's just it. This person says, Josh, I have a collection of silver. Mark Dice. There you go. It was Mark Dice. I watched some of his videos just to laugh when he goes up and asks people. Like, I've seen a few of his videos. My nephew's always watching him. He goes up and asks people, like, how did we get our independence? And they have no idea because they don't know history. Nobody knows history. I mean, there are people who still, first of all, there's people who don't know what platinum is. And then there are people who still think that. I had an argument with somebody the other day. It was a bartender, and she was like, well, platinum's worth a lot more than gold. And I'm like, no, it isn't. She's like, well, do you give you a platinum credit card over a gold credit card? I'm like, I don't care. Okay. Gold has been worth more than platinum for over a decade. I'm telling you right now, gold is very valuable and it will never, ever lose its value. I don't care if the world falls to ash, gold will be worth something. Gold is a conductor too. That's another thing. I mean, people don't understand the world, and like, and for those of you who don't know, can somebody on here tell me why we celebrated the 4th of July? Rhodium. See, there you go. Another person. Rhodium. Rhodium's worth a lot of money too. I believe today, I think gold is worth $18.90 or something like that. I don't remember what it was today. It might have dropped, or maybe that was a couple days ago. I can't remember when I checked it last. So do yourself a favor, go out and buy silver, buy gold. Silver is going for about double what its value, about $25 an ounce, and it's going for about 40, 45. Somebody said diamonds. Yeah, there you go. There are way to stimulate. There you go. There are way too many diamonds. Diamonds are not actually worth anything because it's an artificial market. So yeah, there's only so much gold and silver, but there are tons of diamonds. And people, Dick Richards, buy food too. Yeah, if you can stockpile it. So yeah, North Carolina cryptid ammo. Yeah, it's unfortunate. 4th of July is, yes, the British. There you go. Who said that? QT, OT. How do you say your? Anyways. Yeah, somebody says here, diamonds are inflated. They're artificially inflated. Yeah, true. Rebecca, say, I can't read your names here. McEnroy. Yeah. Alien race turn humans into slaves to get their gold. Something like that. Sort of. Like I could go along with that to a certain extent. There's a lot of things I would like to talk about that I can't talk about on this show. Okay, OT. Okay, there you go. So I'm actually thinking about making an alternate channel where we can talk about things that aren't completely paranormal and cryptid based, so that you can get a more 411 on what I'm doing and what is real. Because there's a lot of things I like to do to help my listeners that I can't do, that you just can't do it. Not on this platform. So if you're interested, anybody's interested in that, let me know. And if you're interested, you'd watch that. Today I was doing something with my wife. I was watching a show, and it's called Downton Abbey. Okay, I don't know if anybody knows what that is. It's actually on Netflix, and it's actually a very good show. And it is around the time period leading up to and during. I've only seen the first season, and I watched the season finale today. And Downton, not downtown, Downton Abbey, is about a giant manor run by a lord, and he has all these servants and stuff, and it's all about the intrigue going on within the house and stuff. And at first glance, you think it's kind of boring, and you look, it's like there's 6 seasons of it. Somebody's watching it, so I actually like it. I started watching halfway through the second episode, and I got into it. My wife was watching. I figured, well, if she's going to watch it, I better deal with it, you know. So I started liking it, and then I was watching it. and they started talking about World War One. At the end, toward the end of the last episode, he comes out, he gets a letter, and I knew what it was, and he announces the beginning of World War One. And everybody at the party's like, "Oh my gosh, we're now at war with Germany." If people understood history, they would understand not only our past, but they would understand our present, and they would understand our future and where we're headed and why we're headed there and where we were and where we've been all this time. Because World War One to me was a very, very unnecessary war, and it should be a lesson to show people that no matter how comfortable you are, no matter how great you think things are, within a blink of an eye, everything can change. It was one of the most unnecessary conflicts that ever took place. Not only was it unnecessary, it was completely contrived, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Throughout the centuries, there were countries that fought each other. Two in particular, France and Britain, sparred violently for years. I mean, they were fighting each other there was 100 years war. I mean, and it went on and on and on. I mean, those two they battled for the continent. They fought each other in the colonies. They fought each other at sea. They went to war over and over and over again. And France was a long-standing ally of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire being Turkey. And the reason being is because France is over here. There's all these countries, and then the Ottomans are way over here. So what strategic purpose would they have to be against them? So Britain was the Germanic countries, because Germany was not just one country, it was several Germanic countries. They were almost always Britain's ally. Even like, look at our history. The Hessians, they fought for British. They were mercenaries. They were Hessians. They were Germans. And they fought alongside the Brits, which they considered their brothers, for centuries. And you had a war that took place between the Prussians and the Austrians, and the Prussians won. In large part, I'm not going to get into a whole history lesson here, but in large part to a type of gun that they used. It was that they could load. It's not important, but the point is that they won, and so they sort of kind of absorbed Austria into their sphere of influence after that. Then they went to war with France and the Franco-Prussian War, and France lost, stung France. They were hurt, which kind of drove them to form an alliance with Britain, which was their traditional enemy. And so then when you start to look at like the realignment of the powers, it was so bizarre. The Ottomans, who were the traditional enemy of the Habsburg Empire, which was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I mean, and this stuff goes all the way back to Count Dracula. I'm not kidding. Vlad the Impaler. He was from Wallachia, which was a part of Romania, which pretty much was a vassal state of Hungary and Austria. And so Germany was was Luxembourg and Saxony and Bavaria and Prussia. These were the different, I think it was Westphalia. There were all these different provinces of Germany. It wasn't even Germany wasn't even a country. And so, back in those days, and Italy was not Italy. It was a bunch of different little city-states. And so you had this weird violent clashes that went on for centuries between the West and the East, which were the Ottomans in the East with the Muslim faith, and them trying to fight the European Christians, which were kind of held up by the Habsburgs, like Wilhelm II, and he had the fight with the Sultan. And of course, I think it was Mehmed when the siege of Vienna, which is in Austria. The Spaniards played a big part in that because they had fought the Muslims for years. And so what ended up happening was the traditional allies, and I talked to my history teacher at that time about this, and I said, I don't understand. I was like, for centuries, you had the same enemies, the Ottomans versus the Austro-Hungarians. You had Germany just kind of in the middle. They were always kind of mercenaries. Italy, same thing. They were always just doing what the papacy wanted, basically. You had France, who was always fighting with England, especially after the English became Anglican and they stayed Catholic predominantly. Spain, who was an ally of France until Bonaparte invaded Spain. So you had these alliances, and they were that way for centuries. But then World War I starts, and the realignment was like, oh, this is weird. You have the Ottomans, okay, who had a long-standing treaty with France. They are now enemies. And the Ottomans, the Turks, they became allies with the Austro-Hungarians and the Germans. Very weird, okay? Then you have France, who was centuries-old enemy of England. Even part of France is called Brittany. It's called Brittany because the British controlled it. That was they took it and held it for a long time. It was a chunk of France that belonged to Britain. So anyways, you had, it was just a very strange, weird, the way it all fell out. Old enemies flipped sides and ended up being, and then if, you know, in the greatest war that the world had ever seen up to that point, allies that were allies for centuries ended up on opposite sides. If you would have went to a Turkish person 100 years before and said, guess what? There's going to be a war started by a Serbian who's going to kill the Archduke Ferdinand of Austria, sort of in an act of terrorism, I guess. And it's gonna make you. You're going to be on the same side as the Austro-Hungarians, your traditional enemy, and you're going to fight that war, and you're going to lose. That person probably would have laughed at you while they're smoking their hookah, and they probably would have blew it in your face and said, "You're crazy, my friend." Just as if you would have went to a French person and said, you know, you're going to be allies with Britain in two great wars, and everybody's going to be like, "I don't believe you. You're wrong. I would never be allies with those ridiculous English people and their bad-tasting food." Well, guess what? Necessity makes for strange bedfellows, and that's what ended up happening. And I was just thinking about that, so I talked to my wife about it, and I was explaining to her how it all fell out and how it happened. And you're just going like, and this is World War I, folks. And Christian Arredondo, the Japanese were allies in World War I. Yeah, they were actually allies of the Americans in World War I. And so, yeah, it says here, OT says that the Turks were not right away on Germany's side. Well, it didn't take long because they had a treaty with the Austro-Hungarians, not necessarily Germany. But they ended up on the same side because the Germans were on the same side as the Austro-Hungarians. Germany's problem was that they sided with two. He says, "You smell of elderberries." It says they had two fading empires that were on their side. They beat the crap out of the Russians during World War I. I mean, just beat the crap out of them, and Germany just kicked their butt, and they went back home, and then everything fell through, and the Communist Revolution took place, and blah blah blah. Now, OT, it says here, the Turks' siege of Vienna saved by Poland's mighty winged hussars. The hussars were a part of it. The hussars were the traditional Polish cavalry. They were bad dudes, but I think that the Spaniards played the biggest part in the defeat of the siege of Vienna. Little history here. If you like croissants, after the siege of Vienna, if you go and read about this is true. There was a baker that they celebrated, a French baker or a Belgian baker, I believe, and he created the croissant in memory, and it was based on the crescent moon of the Muslim flag that's on the Turkish flag. The Muslims had invaded, led by the Ottomans. The Ottomans had an empire, huge empire with a lot of vassal states, Arabian countries, and they to celebrate, they made a little crescent symbol called the croissant that we eat till this day. It's considered a French bakery item, but it was made by a baker, and it was in honor of the siege. Now, some people say that's not true. I did some research on it, and I believe it is. And it's weird because, like, the old allies became the enemies, and it didn't make sense to me, and it's never set well with me. Russ Harmon, thank you for your donation, by the way. Let me read your comment. I'm so sorry. And we'll get into some stuff here in a little bit. Thank you, Russ. Russ says little money for the show, then back to work. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Russ. Don't work too hard. So, it was just really weird how it all fell out. And to me, it never made sense. I was like, how could these people all be enemies for centuries? And then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, they're all flipped and on different sides. Serbia was always an ally of Russia, which drugged them into it. This is the reason why George Washington warned against treaties with countries, because your ally will get you into a war with somebody. It just happens. Kind of like in this business we're in now. You're friends with somebody, and then they get into a fight with somebody, then they expect you to help. Hey, you know what? I'm fighting with this guy. Get on board, And you're like, well, I guess I don't want to, but it just kind of, all of these situations all kind of start off with people fighting and then people telling their allies to get involved. That's what happened. Yeah, it says the Ottomans controlled Iraq and Syria at the end, were carved by the French and the British. Not only that, but Palestine. And it's very interesting that Palestine, I think, was the goal in some ways. It says the Serbs to this day are allies of the Russians. Yeah, they consider themselves the same people. And so there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of Dick Richards quarrying, moved, and manipulation. Yeah, there is. It didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense the way it fell out, that France and Britain became buddies. It just didn't make any sense. And then, the Ottomans were buddies with the Austro-Hungarians. It was just like, how did this happen? Well, you have to read. You have to go back, and if you go through every step of history, you'll start to see like how we all ended up where we're at now. And it's just really weird. It's very odd. And then somebody says here, Palestine is not a country. That's I'm not going to touch that. That's your opinion, sir. Doris, if you don't want to hear it, that's up to you. Sorry. I don't talk just about cryptids all the time either. When I'm done with this show, which is going to be a little bit short tonight, I'm not going to stay on a whole long time, but I am going to do some stuff. My show is Paranormal Round Table. It's not Cryptid Round Table. Thank you. The Grizzled said, hope you're doing good, PRT family. Anyways, the history lesson was just because, if you don't know history, you're not going to understand it. You're not going to understand what it has to do with this. I mean, I care about my listeners. I would like my listeners to be awake and understand. I mean, woke, for real woke, not the fake woke, whatever, that both sides are claiming they're woke and they're just not. You got to know history. You got to learn it. You got to understand it. And how it all ties into everything that's happening right now. The people who control this world, who are, in my opinion, evil. They rule this world. And I'm not going to get into my opinions on that. But they are able to orchestrate a world war. And then a second world war, which was essentially a byproduct of the First World War. And they're able to orchestrate that, making traditional enemies become, life or death allies. They can do anything. They can manipulate. They can do anything. They can create CERN and manipulate the world around us and everything that we're dealing with right now. Essentially, it all goes back to history. So yeah, and people don't even they don't understand. They don't know anything. I mean, they don't read. They don't know where it just. The thing with Dice and his show where he goes and asks people, about and whether you are into his politics or not, I don't really care. It was just funny. I watched some of his videos, just laughing because people didn't know that Joe Biden was actually the vice president before becoming the president. He literally went to Venice Beach and asked like 20 people, and they couldn't tell you what Biden did. Some of them said, wasn't he like a senator or the speaker? They didn't know. That's how ridiculous it is. I mean, and I could give you an in-depth history on all this, and we could sit here for hours, and I could do a dissertation on it. That's not what I'm going to do. We're going to start talking about some stuff, but I just wanted to get into that. That was just some weird stuff there that, I just thought it was weird, and how these people can manipulate, and so can they jump timelines? Can they manipulate? Can they cause creatures to pop in and out of our reality? Sure, why not? If they can do an entire world war, if they could literally orchestrate an entire world war, how is it so hard? People are they just can't, they don't get it. I mean, sorry. And there was something that I wanted to show you guys, I wanted to read to you from Paranormal Round Table. I thought it was pertinent to what we were talking about earlier. If you guys aren't in the Paranormal Roundtable group, I suggest you go and join on Facebook. We have a lot of people who give stories and pictures and just all kinds of stuff that goes on. I wanted to read something. There was a girl that her name is Lily, and I can't find it in the Paranormal Roundtable. Anyways, Paranormal Roundtable started by my wife because we had so many prayer requests. She started a Paranormal Roundtable prayer group, and so that's another group you can join. Well, I can't find it, but anyway, it was something I wanted to read. Now I can't find it. That's a shame because it was this poor little girl. She had cancer, and Paranormal Trucker Group. That's another one that I signed on to be an admin in. It's called Paranormal Trucker Group because people driving trucks, people who work as janitors, people who work as security, garbage people that work overnight, they see weird stuff. I mean, it's just a fact. We get a lot of weird stories. People that work at night. I would appreciate it if my wife would make me an admin in the Paranormal Prayer Group. If you're listening, wife, be nice. Guess you don't trust me with that. I can be an admin in the other groups, but I guess not that. Just left me out. Just kicked me out the game on that one. Dick Richard says, my research on Rome, Greece, Egypt, etc., various Tartarian empires or Phoenician. The Phoenicians are now the modern day Lebanese. It's where Lebanon is. So I don't really buy into that. Although the Phoenicians they're seagoing people, as were the Greeks. There's a lot of people that lump the Greeks in with the Italians as being the same people, like as of the Roman race. but not necessarily, because they were they went about things totally different. The Greeks were big into, they were seagoing people, just like the Phoenicians. But the Romans were not. And although very similar, they were not big. They conquered the Mediterranean, but they weren't big sailors. They did a lot of their stuff by land. One of the main places they sailed to in war was Carthage. They had to fight Carthage, but for the most part they weren't big on sailing. Them and the Persians were kind of like, they weren't real into the salt water. So the Assyrian Empire, yeah, Martin Hertel. Yeah, there are still Assyrian people to this day. Most of them are Coptic Christian. And I'm not going to get into what that is, but I mean, yeah, they're still in existence to this day. I've always wanted to make a history documentary, from the ancient times, kind of linking everything together and showing how it all began, because there is a lot of things that I don't agree with. Let's put it that way. Nina Sinclair requesting prayer request for my son. He just turned 28. He was diagnosed with MS. He's got 2 spots on his brain and a neurological split on the left cerebral cortex. I'm very sorry to hear that. I'm very sorry to hear that that's the case. And thank you. You've been a listener and supporter of the show for a long time. But anyways, moving on. Let's talk about some weird stuff here. I'm going to try and see if I can get a hold of this guy. Because he's got a really interesting story. It's not real long, but I think you guys would enjoy it. My wife says she sent me a request to become an admin. Yeah, now that I complained. I'm just kidding. I'm going to find this guy. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of this. It's funny because he's got the same name of another people. Let's see if I can get a hold of this guy. Doesn't look like it's like he will. Because this guy's got a really cool story, and he just told me the other day. He said he'd be willing to come on and tell it, and I think you guys would find it very interesting. Well, he manages a place, and I don't know if he's really busy, but I'm not able to get a hold of him. But it's a really cool story, and I could tell the story, but I'd like for him to tell it because it would be very interesting, and to hear it from him. If anybody wants to call in and tell a story, let me know. Mark Maycheck, Letitia Nunley, Barton's wife, said something about that comment that I made earlier. She's talking about Johnny Henderson and them helping that guy. She's like, "You guys are awesome. So glad God put us in your path. Love y'all." Mark Maycheck, it's never a big deal to people until it's them. Then they want all the help they can get. We should care about others regardless of who they are. Thank you for taking care of a stranger. There should be more people like you. Lisa McKenna. Kelly Cardi Bedwell says, wish there were more people like you. And then Nellie, my wife, said, thank you for helping that man out. That was awesome of you all. And JD Holyfield, the world's priorities are self, that's for sure. And Phyllis Peters said, thank you for helping and caring. There's just a lot of comments on there. There was a lot more up top that I didn't even get to, Zelda Walter said, wow, I'm so glad that you and your son have the hearts that you do. Bless you and this man. It's good that there are people out there that will help people, that just want to be good people. Got someone calling in. Headphones on backwards here, folks. Yeah, hello. Hey, how's it going? I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know that you're coming through. Let's see what's going on with this. I can hear you, but the listeners can't hear you. Hang on one second. Hey, Anthony. I might have to get my sound guy over here because all this stuff over here, I'd have to stop. And guy called in and he wants to talk, but I can't access it. He's right here. She called in from Facebook, but it's not. The sound's not coming through. Hey, let me call you back. Okay, all right. There it goes right there. So when they call in, it's like it's not connecting. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. How are you, Josh?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I wanted to mention, I liked what you were saying about that during World War I, World War II, there was a lot of incongruency in between former allies that really didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever watched The Holy Mountain, it's a book, or I mean, it's a movie called The Holy Mountain, and they suggest that the advisor to the president's role. Now, I don't have any evidence of this or proof. We know what happens in Bohemian Grove and things like that. But they suggest that the advisor to the president's role is to be a trance medium or access to a trance medium who basically tells the president how many people need to die and where they need to die.
Mm-hmm.
What land you need to bleed on is the idea that they're conveying. So that would kind of make sense. If you do more research around it, you that's kind of an agreeable idea.
And let me ask you that: can we say your name on the air, or do you want to use somebody?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, your name is Ken
yeah, that's
Mullins.
fine.
Okay. And I don't know you, Ken, but you know, I've seen you, on here. But so one of the things that people don't understand is that there is a committee. I mean, they really do. And people don't get it, and they don't understand. Like, how could these people who fought for centuries, all of a sudden they decide that, hey, we're just all going to be allies and flip and wage the biggest war that the world has ever seen? And I do believe it's about thinning the herd and killing. And I believe that a lot of this is sacrifice.
Yeah, eugenics, sacrifice. It seems like the blood spilling had to kind of be, not so much in the open. You can't stand on top of a pyramid in this day and age and chop people's heads off and let blood flow down the pyramid.
Yeah.
So there's a rouge to it.
Well, I thought it was very odd that the thing that happened in Las Vegas, the Luxor. I mean, and then prior to that, there were Mothman sightings in that area. So I mean, a lot of weird stuff that goes on. I mean, and everybody thinks it's all different, and people want to compartmentalize everything. That's a big problem too, is that they don't realize. I had somebody recently tell me that she died, and she was dead for several minutes. It happened to my mother actually too, before she actually died. This last time, forever. But
and I'm very sorry to hear that.
Well, I've good days and bad days. This woman told me not too long ago that she died. And one of the things she learned almost instantaneously is that we are not all separate individuals, and that you learn real quick that we are all part of a greater whole, and that we belong to, the source, which is God. It gets really convoluted with the Bible, because, and I'm going to tell people this is going to probably be a controversial show. I'm just going to tell you right now that the Old Testament, I don't take it at face value.
Neither do I.
Yeah, because you can't. If you do, then you're doing it at your own folly, because there's mistranslations there, written in Aramaic, written in Hebrew, Greek. If you don't speak those languages, it's going to be very hard to translate. It's like Arabic. I speak more Arabic than the average Westerner, and so reading the Quran completely changes what it means and says when it's written in English or French or whatever. And I've tried to translate it, and it's like it's really hard. But
I think a lot of people, and keep remembering what you're saying. I'm not trying to go off course. A lot of people, I think, would benefit from an interlinear translation, which is just Greek, basically the Greek idea, and the audience at the time, how they would receive it. That's got to be in context. And also, Paul spoke about how that even during that time, that whenever people read the Book of Moses, which is the old the old translation, the Hebrew translation of the Old Testament, that people had a veil over their eyes, and it was until Christ's presence that people were able to actually gain some type of understanding of it. But yeah, an interlinear is great, and even Paul said that people had a veil over their eyes whenever they read the Book of Moses. They didn't get the sense of it.
They didn't understand it. Yeah. Well, I mean, and a lot of too, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. If you go back and you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, it said that, that the best you could hope for in death was to sit at a table and eat ash. Like that was that was what you're like. That's the best you could hope for. I mean, you could end up in Hades, and it was a horrible, dark place. It was, but when Christ came, like he did away with all that. Like, and I believe that we're in this like biological matrix. I mean, and I believe that we are. If I could really just get in there and talk about everything I've seen and what I know, it would just. I think people would kind of grasp where I'm coming from a little better. Because the pieces of the puzzle are weird, but they fit. If you sit back and you take the puzzle and you put it together and then see this giant mosaic for what it is, rather than just this little nuggets here and there, that's the problem. Is that,
I totally agree. A lot of people are so apt to become defensive because of for a lot of various reasons, especially, former beliefs that they treasured, beliefs that they treasure and they don't want to let go of them.
Yeah. And people don't want to be wrong. They don't like to be told that they're wrong, and they don't want to believe that what they've been believing for most of their life is not, the world is not the way they think it is. They don't want to believe. And when you do a little bit of like, when you take like the plurality, okay, like you can take certain books of the Bible and, each and every time that they speak of God, I don't necessarily think that it's the big G. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that because I think that there's one creator God that is Lord's, that rules over everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think that everybody is.
I'm right on board with you. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think Jehovah in the Old Testament, for instance, I escaped this is a doomsday cult with multiple false prophecies that had direct influence on the death of thousands and thousands of people all over the world.
You were in a doomsday cult?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on one second. Anthony, can we make his volume a little better? Because I'm trying to hear you. I want people at home to be able to hear this. Can everybody at home hear us? Because your sound is a little quiet, and I want people to be able to hear what you're saying.
That's a shame. I made sure to take my Bluetooth off. Hopefully, you can do something with the volume.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to where it's a little bit louder, because it's like we can hear you, but it's very quiet. And in my headphones, it's really quiet. I'm trying to be able to hear you. But anyways, you were in a doomsday cult?
Yeah, and it's one that most people will be familiar with. It's the Jehovah's Witnesses. There are things about the Jehovah's Witnesses that your average person it just isn't going to really know about until I grew up in the religion. So for me, it's a different religion compared to somebody who just joins the religion. I grew up in it, and I did not have a choice. For instance, I've died because of this religion. I had an ulcer, and because I had this ulcer, I bled out, and 3 times on the operating table. So I'm told I denied a blood transfusion. So they ended up going around the medical issue by just giving me volumizer, which doesn't make sense, because when you read in Deuteronomy, it explains basically that the apostles were able to, in times of need, had to eat blood. They had to eat blood and partake of blood, but they were clean when the sun set. So why should someone have to give up their life when they just have to wait a few hours and the sun sets? It makes no sense. So many children die because of this religion. This is no doubt a cult. My parents are still in this cult. A lot of my family are in this cult. And there's not really a way for me to approach it without, losing my family. I've been able to become what's called faded away, or what you call, I'm not for sure exactly what you'd be able to call it, but
Yeah.
I'm no longer active.
I want to address something really quick. Doris Down says, "At one cat away." You're talking to one cat away, and it says, "I believe you do not believe you can die from abscess tooth. You can." Yes, you can. Absolutely. I just didn't mean to interrupt, but that's very important because I had a friend whose wife that don't. I mean, abscess tooth can kill you, folks. Okay, and there's there's even people that claim that there's a link to cancer from having a root canal when you leave that dead tooth in there. Anyways, go ahead. What you were saying, Ken?
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, that's a fact, because you think about the biological nature of the mouth and how nasty it is. You punch someone in the face and you chip your hand on their teeth, you got to go to the ER immediately. Yep. I mean, you're going to end up getting blood, any sort of like bacteria in the blood is bad. Sepsis, toxic shock, all that. That's not a good thing to, have bacteria flowing within your blood, which is where your teeth are in your mouth and all that.
I popped a guy one time at the bar and got my hand the next day was just red, and I had to go to the doctor, and it was just ridiculous. And then another time, my brother, he was the lip splitter. He would always punch people like right here. Like what is his? I don't know what his obsession was with the mouth, lower nose area. And Squid, my buddy, was always breaking the nose. He always had like their little spots, and I'd be like, hit him over here. But they would punch people, and he split this big old dude's lip, and blood just went out like a sprinkler all over about 4 or 5 of us. We were in the back having to wash ourselves off, and then I had to go get checked for whatever, because. But yeah, the fight thing, it's a whole.
That's a big risk you take in your line of work. I couldn't personally do it.
I don't do it anymore. That's not my line of work anymore. It was just at that time.
Well, you're wired in a way that I definitely can admire. I'll say that.
No, yeah, it was a rough trade. I didn't have a lot of other prospects. I mean, I was smart, but I couldn't walk into a deal and be like, "Hey, I'm really smart. I want to own the place. Can you just give me a job?" No, that didn't. They would just look at me and be like, and quick hands. Well, you can fight. Well, here's a job for you. And that was the easiest thing for me to do to not be homeless and broke. And so that's what I ended up. That was my line of work I ended up doing. But yeah, and now I'm coaching. I'm back into coaching again. I enjoy it. I've been coaching like the last few weeks, and I've just really, it's not just doing the training, but I'm actually coaching now, and it makes me feel good to get back in there and coach boxing and do some things, and it's fun. But it is a dangerous thing. Like, and I was looking at my knuckle. I have a Band-Aid right here because I'd cut my knuckle and ended up going in there, pouring peroxide on it, which didn't do. And I'm like, what is this water? I guess somebody watered it down because you're in this rickety old gym, with all these fighters, and I guess everybody's broke because fighters are always broke. So I'm like, well, now I got to go buy a first aid kit and put it in there because nothing's in there the way you're supposed to have it. And so I went home and I showed my wife, and she's like, "Oh, that wound looks bad." And so I had to, she took care of me. She put some Neosporin and whatever, but I, cut the knuckle open and just hadn't had a cut knuckle in a while. But yeah. So you were saying you were in the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now my half brother was in the Jehovah's Witnesses. And he got out, and I don't know if you're out there listening, D. I don't know what year it was he got out, but he got out, I think, when he was 17. He got out. And, he very much, I know there's a show about the Scientologist with Leah Remini from King of Queens, and she talks about, there's an episode where she talks about being, like, there's one where they bring the Jehovah's Witness people on.
Yeah, it was Josh Cedars is his name over in South Africa. Josh Cedar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they talk about the Candace Condé case and all these different cases that are brought up about the two witness rule. And the two witness rule is basically saying it's a policy from the Jehovah's Witnesses, which basically say that in the case of a child being one-on-one with an adult and gets molested, will verify it or see it. I'm not joking. Then there's no proof.
there's no
There's
proof.
no
Yeah.
evidence.
Yeah, and so there's all these horrible things, physical, sexual abuse that go on, and it's like they cover it up. It's like it's not even. There is a lot of things that go on within these organizations that just have there's just no accountability, and I know my brother told me all kinds of things about it. And so there's just a whole bunch of people that I've talked to over the years who've had to endure a lot, and then arguing with some of the people who have been in that believe like that. There's only 144,000 people that are going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very small number.
Yes.
So it's very hard
Yes.
to get. And so getting to heaven is a monumental task. But in any religion, I don't believe that getting to heaven should be your ultimate goal, which seems to be the ultimate goal for a lot of these religious people. I don't think that's your goal should not be getting to heaven, and your goal should not be to stay out of hell. The point should be to do good for the sake of doing good. Because I don't believe, like a lot of people do, that you're just going to automatically go one place or the other. It doesn't work like that. I can tell you that. And I'm not trying to dissuade anybody or make them believe like I believe. I'm just here to tell you that there is hope, and there's not. It is not the way that a lot of people have. It's nice to think that the Bible, starting with the Old Testament, is just this one long fluid book, and it's the same God, and He's the God that created everything, and then it just goes on, and each book goes in order, and it's all nice and neat. That's not the case. I'm sorry. The King James Version is very incomplete. People will argue all day long about what I'm telling them, but this is my truth. I'm telling you right now. I could sit there individually, one-on-one with somebody, and just give them the entire what I believe. Not trying to proselytize up here, but I can tell you that there is a lot of mistranslation. And in the Bible, they'll say, well, it says in the Bible that God's the same today as He was yesterday, as He is tomorrow, as He always will be. That's true, but not in the Bible, because in the Bible, He goes from being vengeful and angry and just jealous and all these wrathful things, and then He's good and loving and kind and whatever. We're giving God human characteristics, which I believe personally doesn't pertain to the one Almighty Creator, the Creator of the universe. I think that was Jesus's job, and He came in the flesh to show us the Word made flesh, and I think that was the truths that were told. The Holy Spirit is the Spirit and power of God that it resides in all of us. It's like the Force, like the goodness, and the evil is not necessarily the devil. People don't even know what the devil is. I mean,
the Hebrews didn't believe in a Satan as
not like we
Christians. No.
Mm-hmm.
No, there were, for instance, like whenever David was, okay, so Jehovah sent a lying spirit to the prophets in that day to cause David to, and I believe this is the right name, cause David to make a census. Okay, to trick the prophets to tell him that we need a census in the land, which was forbidden for whatever reason. I don't know why, but this is what it says. And later, whenever you go into, there's one other book in the Bible, I want to say it's also in Colossians, where it says that Satan sent these spirits. So which is it? Is it Jehovah or is it Satan? There are some incongruencies, inconsistencies in there. Mm-hmm. And I think, I'm not by any means being dogmatic to any of my fellow Christians or brothers or sisters out there who understand that Christ had to come down
To clear things
and
up.
clear things up. Let's say it like that, and clear things up. Was resurrected and whatever. Whatever their faith is, based on that, that's what unites us. It isn't a lot of the other, you know, dogmatic things such as the witnesses use, such as blood transfusions or holidays. So Josh is by no means being dogmatic. None of us, I'm not being dogmatic to anybody. It's up for your own conscience. And if you have the right, heart condition, God is the reader of hearts. It says in the Bible that when Elijah was going from community to community, testifying the name of Jehovah, that many people didn't receive him, and when they didn't, he looked back on these boys, these young children. Well, I don't know how old they were. It describes them as young boys, and he pronounced a curse upon them and had two she bears come and eat them all up, rips them apart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now later on in the New Testament, Peter is asking Jesus after they were dejected from a community. He says, should we go ahead and call to God to pronounce some type of curse on these people because they rejected us? And Jesus turns around and he says, you don't know what spirit you speak of. You see, even he didn't understand the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Jesus says you don't understand the spirit or the nature of what you're saying. It could be that Jehovah was one of the 77 who were in charge of the Middle East and those Canaan and Mesopotamia and those areas. And there were several Baals. It wasn't just Baal.
Yeah.
There were several Baals, even in the Bible. And you can look, don't take anything that I say.
Yeah, go look it
anybody.
up. And
look
also
it up.
The god Enlil, which was the Mesopotamian god, which, the Sumerian tablets were translated. And of course, as everybody's familiar, Zechariah Sitchin. I'm not talking about Sitchin's work. I think Sitchin left a lot to be desired. I think that he misinterpreted some things too. What I'm talking about, though, is if you go back in history and you look at these gods, little g gods, I think they were being revered as God. And when people say, well, that there's people, oh, I love this guy, he believes in God, I'm always skeptical. I'm like, what God? Like, right. I literally was introduced to someone who's like, I believe in God, but I don't really believe in Jesus. And I'm like, okay, well, then we don't believe in the same God. Because I'm like, what God are you referring to? If somebody just said Enoch, okay, let's go there. And it's like the Muslims believe that Enoch actually became Metatron, which was an angel, which totally contradicts Islam's belief that angels and people can never be, because they don't believe that angels have free will. And there's they believe in the jinn and the humans and then the angels. Well, if you stop and you look at the book of Enoch, okay, kind of jumping around here, but if you look at the book of Enoch, there's two different things going on here. And when I get done doing the show right now, tonight, I got to do the show for Friday, which is coming up. And I've done a lot of research on it. And it is a Brazilian exorcism. And it is a very tough topic to talk about. And it takes a lot of energy to get into this. And it's real deep. The waters are deep. And it does have a dogman element to it. And that's why I think that there are different types of these dogman creatures. Anubis just being one of them. Another one is Amun. If anybody is familiar with that, Amun had like the lower body of a reptile and the upper body of a wolf. These are demonic entities. And I think that there's a difference between the demons that we deal with and the fallen angels. Now, fallen angels or rebellious angels, and I think there's two different things there. I think that there were angels that rebelled and fell, and then I think that there were the Watchers, that 200 Watchers that fell. And when people talk about, I cast out demons, this and that, and blah blah blah, I believe that can happen, but I don't believe that you can cast out a fallen angel. I just don't believe that. I believe that only God can do that. That, you know, when Satan wanted to keep Moses' body, for
Right.
example,
The-
and Michael argued with him. He said, "The Lord rebuketh thee," and he didn't say that he rebuked him. Okay, he
Mhm.
said it in the name of God. You know, that God rebuke you. You know, may the Lord rebuke you, because these entities are powerful, and I think that what we're dealing with the demons are. It was the diluvian, like the flood. You know, it came to wash away the Nephilim bloodline, which was the unholy union of the sons of God and the daughters of man. It wasn't the sons of Seth. Like a lot of people try to throw that out there, and I don't believe that. I believe that they were the Nephilim, and what I believe the Nephilim were there was a lot of them. There were a lot of different ones, a lot of different kinds. They warred against each other. They made war against man, and I believe that what you were dealing with was God. When it talks about how God took the rib from Adam, he went to a deep sleep, and then, you know, it sounds very much like, and this is going to sound hubris to some people, but it sounds almost like genetic manipulation. Why would God need to put Adam to sleep to make a female? Okay, God, all these things that God's doing in the Old Testament don't make any sense to me. An all-powerful, all-knowing, and loving God would not need to do these things. He doesn't need you to give him blood sacrifice, which was the Hebrews practice blood sacrifice.
Why would he need to pronounce a name for himself? Why would he need to procure this name for himself if he's God?
Yeah, you don't need that.
Go ahead.
When we, as people, are of the life and breath and spark of God, we die. We're this little ball of light, and we go and we do what we got to do. We're done. It's very simple. I mean, it's not this, you know, but these people, when you go through the Old Testament, and every single entity that pops up is either God or the devil. That's not correct. Okay. First of all, I know that there are a lot of devils. And when you're talking about Satan, it's actually Shaitan. And Shaitan is not necessarily one entity. There's not just one. That's the thing. You're not just dealing with one entity. And then when they talk about from the Old Testament, somehow in Genesis, when they talk about that old serpent, the devil, and then all of a sudden it goes to the Revelations, and then that's the same serpent. You mean you're telling me that's the same thing? Well, from all the way from the beginning to the end, it's just that one entity with all these different names and all these different whatever. And then it talks about the dragon. I mean, you know, and there's all this, it's just so vast. It's so hard it's like sometimes they're talking about God, and then sometimes they're talking about, I don't understand. I mean, it's just, it's really, really, and then Dick Richards says, his ways are not our ways, Josh. We're not meant to understand, brother. Yeah, you're right. We are not meant to understand, but, I think in the Old Testament there's a lot of misinterpretation. I really do, and I think that another person says here most Christians make the mistake of treating Lucifer, Satan, as an omnipresent or omniscient. That's true, and he's not omniscient, and also he's not the be all end all of evil, because in Isaiah it says iniquity or lawlessness, whatever translation you get. It says it's a mystery, for we know not from which it comes. We just know that it is, and it's bad. But God is the source. He is all that is good, and he is the light of the entire universe or multiverses, whatever you believe. And the devil is just one representative of evil. Like he was taken over by evil. Okay. And he is just one ne'er-do-well. In the greater scheme of things, he is an adversary to God. Okay. So you're basically like, say that God is just this giant source of goodness and whatever. There's no comparing an entity that's singularly on his own, whatever. There's no comparing that. Okay. That's like taking the sun and taking, you know, an insect and throwing it at the sun. There's no comparison there at all. I mean, so, you know, the devil being like, what is and who is the devil? And in my world, I don't really care. I mean, it's like It's like the difference between one gang and another gang. They're all my enemies. I don't really care. Whichever one's in charge don't matter to me. You're all part of the same syndicate, you know, when it comes down to it, even though y'all can fight each other and I don't really care. I don't really like any of you. You know, that's all. It's all, they're all my enemies because they are the enemies of God. Because everyone that's of a reprobate mind is the enemy of God.
So the same spirit, yeah.
You're of the same ilk. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Although they don't, one thing that the late Brenton Solomon would always say, well, the devil doesn't divide his kingdom. He was very adamant about that. I disagreed with him. I love Brenton. He's a great guy. I consider him a friend, but I don't believe in that. I don't believe that the devil doesn't divide his kingdom. I don't believe the devil has a choice. I believe that if anybody understands the true nature of evil, being a part of a very dark underworld that at one time I was privy to, you start to realize that evil has no loyalty. That right there is the main crux of there's no loyalty. There's backstabbing, underhanded, and there's nothing that's off the table when it comes to evil. You're evil. They're doing evil, and there's nothing good. I mean, it's just absolute evil. There is no, I mean, and people say, well, the devil doesn't divide his kingdom. The devil doesn't have a choice.
It's no different than compartmentalization.
Yeah. Stimulate here says demons do not all get along. No, they don't. And in fact, there are people who will summon one demon to get rid of another demon because that's just how it works. And also demons, like what we deal with, like the demons that are running around in spirit form, are not the fallen angels. They're two different things. We know that the 200 watchers are chained up, right? You know, that they've been put away. And it just gets real deep. It gets convoluted, you know. And then I do believe that the book of Job also predates the Bible. I believe that was long before, you know, when God says, you know, behold my servant Job, there are none like him. And then he says, where have thou been walking? And the devil says, Satan says, to and from and upon and within the earth. Who's he talking to? I mean, like, who is that? And God makes a deal with the devil to just torment Job to see if he'll bend or break. To me, it's hard to fathom the God of Jesus, the Father of Jesus Christ.
Abba, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very hard for me to think, why would he do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would he let this man be tormented and punished and tortured? It's so weird. I mean, it's almost like it does. It's like you're dealing with two different things. And I feel like I don't want to stir the pot here, but I guess I'm stirring the pot. My God, the God that I worship every day before I even get out of the bed, and my wife can tell you this is true, I lay there and I pray a quick prayer, and then I say a larger prayer with the family that I live with. We all say a daily prayer, and I pray all day long, all night, all the time. It's just constant. I'm in and out of prayer. I pray to God through Christ. I say, God, I come unto you in the name of Christ. Things are done if it is your will. That I know is God, because Jesus is the go-between. Okay? When you sit down and start praying to God, who are you praying to? You're praying to God out there. There are a million gods, okay? But there's only one true God. That's my point. And so when I pray through Christ, because he is the way and the light, okay? And it's like somebody waving a lantern in the darkness, and that is your only way out. Okay? You could be praying to any God. So when people get up there in Hollywood and they go, I want to thank God for my award, yeah, they're thinking they're God. They're very much thinking Moloch. Thank you, Moloch, or whatever, Baal, Enlil, whatever God that is that you're worshiping, you're doing. That doesn't impress me when people tell me, well, I'll believe in God. God's on my side. He might be. Your God may be on your side. I was watching the interview with Tyson Fury when he sat down with Deontay Wilder, and he was like, I'd like to thank my Lord, Savior Jesus Christ. And then Tyson Fury came on stage, and he says, that's very good. I'm glad that he's accepted Jesus Christ. And last time He had his God, and I had my God, and this and all that, and my God won. Because Deontay Wilder was summoning the spirits of his ancestors or whatever. And Dante Wilder, and Tyson Fury is like, okay, well, that's good and all, but I serve God Almighty, Jesus Christ, the Father of Jesus Christ, whatever. And he came out and said, my God won. Simple as that. I mean, he's over here talking about being a Christian, but then in the same sentence, he's talking about it's going to be a decapitation and blood and all this and other, I mean, and talking out both sides of your mouth. I mean, and then I honestly believe that people just really don't have a clue. God is not a get out of jail free card, folks. Being a Christian and accepting Christ doesn't guarantee you a place in heaven. That's just not how it works. And I just wish that there was a way that I could download all my thoughts and things and people could see, it's I can't convey it. And then there's a platform that I'm on that I can't really say everything that I believe and know to be true, because it's just, and it's so hard. And of course there's going to be people that are going to go, oh, this guy doesn't believe like me, so I don't like him. I'm just going to get rid of this guy or talk to this guy, because they don't get it. They don't know, and they don't understand. Why do you think that when Christ was killed on the cross, okay, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not from which they do. They don't know what they're doing, because people are very ignorant.
I think I can expound upon your idea and what you're conveying right now a little bit. I think when a lot of people approach the Bible, in my experience personally, I've noticed that a lot of people are semi-directed, and they're already of the notion that the Hebrew God is the one true God. It says in Psalms 83:18 that you alone are the most true God, Jehovah, basically. I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. You are the most high over all the earth. So whenever you come, I don't believe that you can just have no knowledge of the Bible whatsoever, read it, and believe the God of the old translation of the Hebrew Scriptures as being the good guy. I don't think you can. If you have a prenotion that it is, then I think you're going to end up having some sort of cognitive dissonance. And let me tell you, a lot of people in the Jehovah's Witnesses, especially, unfortunately, some of the, a lot of the wives and females, especially, I don't know why, but they end up having fibromyalgia. And I personally believe that is because of the cognitive dissonance. It's believing several different ideas at the same time that don't flow together. They're incongruent. Logically, if you read the Bible as a fresh book, and you notice how Jesus says that nobody has seen my Father's face, when in the Old Testament it says that that he spoke face to face with Moses in a tent through a boy who ended up being a prophet. So I think that when you do come to God, and with what happened to me, my experience was that I had to forget everything that I thought that I knew. I just had to really humble myself and pray to the one true God, the Creator, who Jesus Christ never spoke about Jehovah or Yahweh. He called him Abba, which is a term meaning father. It's an endearing term, meaning he had an emotional bond with his father. And so I wanted to express, this is what I need in my life. I needed some sort of resolution to all of these man-made doctrines that now no longer matter, because I have freedom through Christ Jesus. As long as I am wholly humble and seeking this type of alignment with him. when I was in this religion, I saw so many dark. I was the most unhappy I've ever been. I grew up severely depressed. Um, I witnessed firsthand over sexualized children when I was a child who would try to act out. I witnessed a lot of things that would truly disturb people, and I grew up very disturbed my whole life. Well, I'll have a tip for anybody who has grown up with CPTSD or PTSD. Generally, it's called, I think it's complicated PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. Once I ended up doing something called EMDR therapy, which is a type of rapid eye movement therapy where you can look at a screen and see a dot going from left to right, or my therapist gave me these vibrating eggs that you could hold, and the left one will vibrate and then the right one will vibrate, or they can use their fingers and track from left ear to right ear, and you're following their finger as you're going through your traumas. And for someone with CPTSD, this is someone who grew up with not having their voice understood or heard, to be a real person, to feel as though they are not a real person, I should say. People with narcissist parents, enabling parents, a combination of religion, supernatural forces, of course, prey on these poor people. And I got to a point to where I really, I had experiences with, demonic experiences, especially right to the point before I did my EMDR therapy. I had a best friend who ended up not being my best friend. I lived up north, and then I moved down south of the United States, and I met a best friend. I never had a friend before. Jehovah's Witness children, along with other cult children, are very isolated, and they grow up as the most lonely people you've ever met. They, and so too, their relationships that they choose later in life.
Yeah, I have cousins on my mom's side that are Jehovah's Witnesses, and they came down. They were very nice people, but they gave me the Book of Knowledge and the Watchtower, and I read all of it, and I was just like, interesting. Don't believe it.
And I'll tell you something else interesting about the Watchtower. Okay, the Watchtower, when the age-old symbol of the Watchtower is a complete, it's a complete crumbling of your faith and disillusionment in the wreckage of everything that you thought was true. That is the archetype of the Watchtower. I believe that's also the tarot card, the Watchtower. The Fool ends up, I think, I'm not so much on the tarot. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that card represents a disillusionment of everything that you know, and it's a crumbling watchtower. I just thought that was interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it correlates, but it seems to. So I ended up having this best friend who was really up on conspiracy theories and neurolinguistic programming, NLP, which is the basically really good stage hypnotist, showman. They use NLP. And that's the same with really, really good therapists. Okay, and you can imagine the implication behind that. We're talking about people who are in marketing and sales. Why do you watch Coke and you suddenly have you suddenly want to have a lot of sex?
Well, it's like you go to the movies and they tempt you with snacks. I mean, it's before mm-hmm. the movie, and they do the sounds and the ice, and it's like Coca-Cola, and you're like, geez, I really want to go get that. I mean, it's just, and then you start getting you drink it, and then you feel weird because it's got all this really bad stuff in it that's not good for you, and we're being poisoned. I mean, And I think that religion is no different. I believe that it's a poison of the soul, a lot of religion. I'm not saying that Christianity or Islam or any of these other religions. What I'm saying is that I'll read some of these comments and you tell me what you think here,
Sure.
Ken. It says here, Anubis says, to say being a good human, walking with love and seeking the path is not New Age. I agree with that. Darren Castle says, I gave up on churches. I'm trying to figure it out on my own, because so many people have done that. And that's the sad reality of it, is so many people have started to just try to find their own truths. They want to walk the path of Christ, but they don't want to have to go through the church and have someone interpret to them their life and what their place is in the cosmos and whatever. And that's why there's a falling away of the church, because a lot of what the church's indoctrinations are false. Someone said in this, and now my phone doesn't want to act right. That's great. Come on, thing. But there's a something that somebody said a minute ago, and I wanted to get on there. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Hang on, folks. Give me a second here. Hang on one second, Ken. I want to read this.
Sure.
Said in this. I'm gonna have to read it over here. It says here. I think it was Dick Richards. I think you said. He said something about that Jesus is truth. The religion created around him was created by fallen men. That's very true. That's a very true statement, Richards. You know, I can tell you right now with all certainty that is absolutely the truth. I mean, there are. They take what Christ said like he didn't even speak, and they just turn it into whatever, you know. And I've always been a believer in this. When Jesus says the old way is done away, and I am here to, he came to clear things up. You know, there's Yahweh, there's Jehovah, there's all these different, you know, who are we worshiping? What are we worshiping? What, you know, Jesus came and said, this is the way that it is. And I'm not saying that we should follow a specific type of religion based around Jesus. What I'm saying is, in my belief, my personal belief, and all you listening at home, I love you regardless of what you believe. You can do whatever you want. But me personally, my belief is that Jesus is the way to the Father. He's the way out off of the wheel. Okay. He's the way out of this biological matrix. He's out of this. And I'm going to say another thing too. The God of this world is not the big G God. The God of this world, the God that created, you know, that has run and doing everything in this world is Shaitan, is a Shaitan, is Satan. And I don't know what his name is. I don't know what his real name is. I don't know if it's Lucifer or if it's, you know, all these other names that I don't know who's in charge on that side. Okay. That's like asking me who my local drug dealers in charge over. I don't know who they are. I don't know who's in charge over there, and I don't care. All I know is that's not me. I'm not on that side. I'm not on the side of, you know, doing bad. You know, whether it's, you know, whatever your sin is or whatever, I'm not into that. I'm just telling people my truth. I just know that Christ is my way out, you know, and I cling to that. So when I pray to God the Father, because Jesus says no one can go to the Father save through the Son, which is him. So I take that at face value, and I pray to God through Christ. Now I see some Christians, they worship Jesus, and I don't actually worship Jesus. I worship God the Father, and I pray to him through Christ. And the Holy Spirit will give you discernment. That's how I believe the Trinity works. I believe that Jesus came down as the Word made flesh. You know, one of the things too is that Jesus was also not just the Son of God, but he was the Son of Man. And if you notice in all the holy books, the demons, they never want to address him as the Son of Man. They will address him as the Son of God, but not necessarily the Son of Man, because that is them admitting that we have dominion over them. Yeah. One of the mistakes too, and I'll tell you this, when people try to exorcise demonic entities, you can exorcise a Nephilim demonic entity that's on this earth, and you can cast, you know, him out in Jesus' name. But you need to be real careful when you start dealing with these higher level entities. You just really don't know what you're messing with, because they are only afraid of God and the power of Christ. And if you don't have the full armor of God, don't mess with it. I'm just telling you, don't go to somebody's house and start casting out and thinking what you can, because you don't know what you're dealing with. Another thing too, people fall into the trap of the armor of God. The devil or his minions or the evil entities of this world, they don't just come to you and go whoo and snatch off your breastplate and the armor of God. They don't take your shield and your sword away from you all in one fell swoop. It's an erosion. It's a chipping away. I know that because I fell into that trap. I dwelt in the darkness for 7 years, and that number is important too. 7 years of darkness that I lived in the darkness. And what happens is one sin leads to another. You have avarice and larceny and all the lust and all these sins, and you'll commit one and you'll be like, oh, that's, I'm doing that already. You might as well do this. And then you do this and then you do that. Next thing you know, you're knee deep in the muck and you're stuck in the mud. You cannot get out and you are mired in the sin and you can't get it off of you. It's an erosion. And eventually you look around and you're like, I don't have God anywhere around me in my life. I am now beholden to whatever the reprobate mind is beholden to. Mm-hmm. And the only way out is to fall on your knees and to ask Christ to help you, to get you back on track, to get back to God. And people can believe it or not believe it. Jesus has worked miracles in my life. I can tell you that. I was one of the most violent human beings on this freaking planet. Anybody who knows me will tell you that. And people always think, oh, he thinks he's tough. Or I don't think I'm tough, dude. I know what I'm capable of. God gives you the ability, and you can choose to be bad or good. Okay? You can do righteous and you can fight the good fight, or you can just be a self-centered evil person and just use your ability for darkness. And I think that I dwelt in that darkness. I think there was a reason for it too. And I think God had a plan, and I think it was so you could understand it. And you can really understand the true nature of it. And what I learned about the darkness is that it's not one entity. Okay? And my good friend Barton on here commented that it's Lucifer. I think he's one. I don't think he's the be all end all of evil, though. I don't think he's the master of all that's evil. That's kind of comic bookish to me. No offense to you, Barton. I'm not saying you're being comic book. I'm saying that people that they believe that Lucifer's over here and God's over here, and they're like this. That's not really how it works. There is God who is the source and the creation of all that is, and Lucifer was just a fallen angel. Okay, he was not. He had no like there's nothing, there's no comparison, there's nothing there. But I don't think he's the only one. Now I know when King Solomon, when he was dealing with a demon named Asmodeus. I don't even like saying their names, but that's what it was. That's who he was, and he was the one that tricked him into And then there's all these other different names of these demons. They're not all the same person. It's not all the same entity. And I believe that the translations get kind of messed up when we start talking about the translations of being as just one thing, like when the Elohim, which means like the people, the sky, when it starts, the gods, yes. When you start talking about that, it's like saying, okay, let's take a football team, the Buccaneers or Cowboys, and then it says the Buccaneer. When you take the S off, it becomes the Buccaneer. But if you said the Buccaneers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're talking about a team. You're talking about one side of a battle. And then if you said Tom Brady, well, you're talking specifically about Tom Brady. You're talking about that one Buccaneer. Okay, or you're talking about Dak Prescott, that one Dallas Cowboy. That's what you're talking. You're being specific. Whereas a lot of these translations are actually talking about like one side. Shaitan is not one entity. There are thousands of Shaitan.